T-cell proliferation. Dynamics. T-cells are very important for our immune system. So this is why we are trying to understand how they proliferate, how they divide, and how their number becomes so large to defend our organism against threats. So in this work, we are trying to master the parameter we call T-cell proliferation dynamics. Those parameters are, for our case, waiting time, to die, for the zero generation, and for others generation. To do it, to know those parameters, biologists have developed the laboratory method. Among those laboratory methods, the most famous use is CFSE labeling. And this technique is just to introduce the dye in laboratory on the cell, and after each division, the dye is sharing to the two daughter cells. So after, by using the cytometric flow, we can counting the number of cells which undergo certain number of division. So in this work, we present this method to understand the assumption and to understand how the cell perform their division. So the problem with this method is that the method don't tell us about enough information about the parameters, so we need something else. So as a mathematician, we propose to use the model to explain. Several models have been developed to explain, but we are interested by some work done by Miao in 2011. In this work, we are interested by the Smith matter model. Linear with OD Cyclone model and age-dependent utility branching process. These are three models that we are going to study to reverse the engineering of the proliferation of T-cells. So the Smith matter model, as we can see in the page 9, equation 2.227 and page 10 to 13, is just a set of couple of delayed differential equations which describe the rate of changing of the population of cells from each generation and define over the time and for each type of cells. So in the Smith matter model, the main thing is that we divide the cell cycle in the A phase and B phase instead of 4 phases like we know from biology. So the A phases have undetermined length, and the B phase have the length. Duration of the B phase is delta, which is a fixed duration. So here the cell move from the A phase to B phase with the rate lambda 0 for the 0 generation and lambda for other generation. So the equation just describes the population of the cell in the A phase and the B phase for each generation over the time. But for the slowly dividing cell, the length of each cell is very small in front of the total length of the cell cycle. So there's no longer delay time. So in that case, we just end with the linear Duff ODE model, which is just a set of set of proper ODE equation. We describe the rate of change of the population. But the problem with those two first models is that they are failing to describe the process of dying cell. So we need a better model to express that phenomenon. We study the Seaton model. In the Seaton model is just a combination of the compartment model and the stochastic model. Here we describe the process of dividing and dying of cell by using the distribution. In our case, we use the exponential distribution. So that exponential distribution have the parameter mu P0, which is a waiting time to divide for the zero generation, mu P, which is for other generation, mu D0, which is the waiting time to die for zero generation, and mu D, which is the waiting time to die for others generation. That model just can be written in a set of integral differential equations and describe perfectly the process of dying cell. But the problem is that when we perform the CFSE labeling, we can realize that after counting by flow cytometry, we can realize that some cells along the experiment can stay present, so they are not going to divide or die. So the Seaton model failed to describe that phenomenon. So for taking care of the present cells, we use this model which can take care of dying cell, dividing cell, and present cell. But some study made by Yin and Zhang and Hankin in 2007 has shown that we can perform the Seaton model, and that model can be comparable to each dependent multi-branch process. And since, we say earlier, linear Duff ODE is just a consequence of Smith-Martin model, we are going to test the accuracy of Smith-Martin model and Seaton model. To do that, what we do is that we use the individual-based simulation to have a data we look like data from experiment. And with individually, we produce 3 data sets because of the time we can do more, but we use just 3 data sets. And those 3 data sets, we run some simulation around the default parameter value. And we end up with the best parameter for each model. And we plot the best parameter against the average of 3 data sets from individual-based simulation. So we have a global picture. In the global picture, we can see that the Seaton model is better than Smith-Martin model, but we cannot say which parameter Seaton model help to really better approximate. So for do that, we need a tool to do that. So we define the average relative error. So average relative error of one parameter that I will call J that we are trying to estimate is 1 over n. N here is the number of data sets that we are using. Summation I over the number of data sets, the parameter minus the estimation parameter over the parameter times 100%. So the more the array of one parameter, the more the array is small, more better the estimation is good. So since we are comparing SNE-Matin model and Cyton model, those models share only 4 comparable parameters. Lambda 0 is comparable to mu p 0, lambda is comparable to mu p, and d0, which is the dying cell for zero generation, and dying cell is compared to mu d0, and d is compared to mu d. So by the end of the day, we compare mu p0 and lambda 0 by rescaling them, and we see that Cyton model data approximate the waiting time to divide for the zero generation and for other generation. And it's also, Cyton model also data approximate the waiting time to die for zero generation, but it's failed to approximate the waiting time for to die for other generation. So we can say the SNE-Matin model really data approximate the waiting time to die for other generation. So, this problem that Cyton model is failed to approximate the waiting time to die for other generation, we can improve it if we consider that the parameter, since we are using exponential distribution with parameter mu p and mu d for other generation, if we consider that those parameters depend on the generation, or by changing the type of the distribution, like picking the gamma distribution like Nyawa have done, we are sure that Cyton model can better approximate the waiting time to die for other generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, Armel. We have some few questions from the examiners. We start with the external.
Where you have this AB, so you are using 2 for number in biology, the phases 4.
Yes, for biology is 4 phases.
I want you to explain why 4. Where did that come from?
Okay, for biology, there are two important phenomena, the mitosis and the DNA synthesis that we call S. Between the mitosis and the DNA synthesis, all the two phenomena have a length. And between these two phenomena, there is a phase called G1, which is the link between the mitosis and the DNA synthesis. After that, there is a phase called G2, and then mitosis starts again, since the life cycle is like second. So what we do here is that we consider the A phases just contain a part of G1 or all the G1 phases, since the length of A phases is undetermined. But we are the B phases contain S, G2, and the mitosis.
Did I hear something like cytometric flow or
cytometric
flow?
No, cytometric flow.
Yeah, what?
Is a technique for counting the cell. For the CFSE labeling, since we are using the dye to identify the cell, so the cytometry counts the cell by looking the intensity of dyeing inside the cell. So if we're starting with one cell and the intensity is 100, and after dividing, the cell will give the intensity of two daughter cells will be 50 and 50. So the flow of cytometry will contain this, like the cell will have done just one division. And for later, if that happens, this will be 25, 25. And by looking the intensity, we can know how much division the cells have undergone.
Would you make a recommendation based on your conclusion?
Yes. Yes. The recommendation that I can give is that if you want to use you're looking for the model to estimate this, the parameter which govern the T-cell proliferation, it's better to use the Cyton model than use the SNE-Matin model.
currently you are just moving from mathematics to like
Mathematics.
I just want to know, in 2 ways, what is the main role of immune system? 2 ways, not more than
Protection. I can use the word protection and defend.
you rather use defense because defending means you protect. You run away. And what would you do? You protect against the one. It must be
Okay,
but it's
Yes.
good detect. So
Yes.
detection
Protection.
and difference. The work is very good, but as a mathematician, I was expecting more than that because we have dynamical systems here. That's why I was saying that welcome to this world. We didn't even wonder if the solution exists as a mathematician. So those are dynamical systems. If you want to show that the solution exists, what can we use the tool to prove that? I'm not trying to estimate something that does, because we are estimating something, but that thing must first exist. That's the point. The thing, the solution that we are trying to estimate must first exist. How do you show that those set of differential equations have unique solutions?
Okay, what I, to the best of my knowledge, what I know, if I take the case of the OT model, if I want to show the existence of I can use the Cauchy theorem. I can use the Cauchy analysis to show that, the Cauchy-Lipschitz theorem, to show that since I have I can write the equation like x when y when equal matrix times x y. If I just suppose that is 2 by 2, so I can use the Cauchy-Lipschitz theorem to show that this this matrix is Lipschitz. Matrices.
But we didn't even mention that, huh? And
Yes.
you ran through the simulation.
The problem with my work is that I'm reviewing a paper.
Okay.
Yes,
And at the end, you have given us a code there.
yes.
Did you write that code or it has been
I
Sincerely.
sincerely I write, but it doesn't work well, and my supervisor helped me to put it in the way.
So you started there, so you understand what is there.
Yes.
So if you go to your code, on line your function opt-in goes.
Okay.
You use opt-in function there.
Yes. Okay. If I use the nucleus zero.
But I didn't even ask the question.
I listen like what the team function do.
Okay.
This is what I.
No, that's not what I'm asking. So what I'm asking is, which algorithm are you using in that opt-in function? The add function. So which, because there are many functions included under opt-in, which one are you using?
So the optimum function, I'm not the one who do it. Like,
So you, okay, that's fine. So you're not the one. So you are just trying to estimate your parameters, but there are other methods. You can explore other methods. You could use a method like NCNC. Can you hear about it? Markov chain where you just play with computer, you just play that. You need to explore those methods.
in this work, I did not try to explain and expose the method since when I did the work there was a outline that I have to follow to adjust on the work.
Yes, Armel. What is a T cell?
Okay, T cell is
What are their functions?
okay. The function of T cell, they are the first thing. There are two types. They are helper T cell, which coordinate the information about the element of the immune system, and the second one that cytotoxic T cell, which target just the trait and kill the trait. So I can say that the T cell
But the T cell don't kill the pathogen. They kill the infected cells.
infected cells.
Because you have to understand that there is T cell and we have T cells and we have also B cells. So the pathogen is inside you. T cells are there to kill the infected cell and to protect further infection, to protect cells against further infections. But B cells are there to kill pathogen. So we have cell-mediated immune system and antibody where T cells comes from.
Okay, so having explained the T cell means that it's for mode one. It fights cells and at the same time do some communication among them.
Yes.
Alright, then what do you mean by reverse engineering?
Okay, reverse engineering is just to extract the information or design information from something that man have made and try to reproduce it or to duplicate it.
From what the T cells have two functions, trying to defend or kill the other and then communicate. I want to reverse engineer it so that you get it.
So I will not put it that way. Reverse engineering here, there's information that we know from the CFS labeling. We extract those information to build the mathematical models. This is why we call the method reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering is just a modeling where you have data and you are just trying to now reproduce the model. By estimating parameters.
How is that going to help with the waiting time to that and waiting time to deliver?
So,
If you do that reverse engineering, the model that you create
okay, if you know that can help us to predict
is for prediction.
for the prediction. Also, sometime when we are sick, we don't know. We take the drugs to accelerate the proliferation of the cells. This information can give us this parameter can help the people that work in pharmacy to produce the medicine.
So this is connected with the drug production.
Yes, pharmacy and
Okay.
medicine.
On a lighter note, if you think that human race, which one is the zero generation? Because Adam and Eve from
Actually, the word zero generation is just for the estimate because when we suppose that the cell have not go under any division, so we call those cells zero generation.
they are now starting to.
So when they
So
divide,
just before starting,
Just before starting.
everything.
All right, thank you very much, Chipra.